All right, Collins, you can speak now.
Um, Good evening, everyone. My name is Ohanu Collins. I'm the Public Relations Officer of the University of Nigeria Medical Center. So, this will be one of my very last projects for UMSA, which is the USMLE Orientation. That's the United States Medical Licensing Exam. And we present our speaker here, Dr. Judah Okonkwo, who was also an on-site. So he's someone who has stayed through step one, step two, and I mean our boss. Let me put it that way. So please, we are going to welcome Dr. Jude Okonkwo to give us from his bounty of knowledge everything we need to know about the USMLE examinations. Thank you so much. So Dr.
All
Judah,
right.
you can start.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, as I said, I'm Dr. Judah Okonkwo. I graduated from 2021 set in 2022 due to COVID. Okay. So yeah, like you said, okay, before I start, I want to say thank you to the organizers of this program, the UMSA PRO, Manu Collins, and other people that played one or two roles in um, bringing this program to the home sites. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if I was well, okay. I have some idea, I have some knowledge. At least I've gone more than most of us on this call. So I just want to share my insights, even though I've not actually matched. Okay. But I've done a few things. I've written step one and step two. Okay, so I'll share my insights so far. Okay, so I don't know. I'm not really seeing a button to share my screen. I don't know if the organizers can maybe help me share my slide. I don't know how possible that would be.
Okay, Theo, please help in sharing the slides.
All right,
So
just
okay,
send the
while
slide.
that is trying to, I've sent the slide already to the WhatsApp group.
Okay, you see
Check the
the first
WhatsApp
link.
group.
The first link.
No, no, not any of those links. There's a group that and Collins, are you aware of where the slide is? Maybe you can help send it to Theo.
I didn't hear you.
I said, do you know where the slide? You know where the slide is in the other group, so you can send it to Theo. It's not in the general group.
Okay, I will send it to general group. I will send it to Theo.
Okay, okay. So yeah, okay. So while that is being set up, what is USMLE? USMLE is United States Medical Licensing Exams. Okay, most of us already know. So why are we talking about this? I'm talking about this because we're just being real. Okay, many of people after graduation will consider alternate pathways to medical practice than residency in Nigeria. Okay, and due to the unfortunate state of things, the poor remuneration, poor facilities available for practice, and a whole lot of other things, many people favor starting a residency program outside the country as compared to the to Nigeria. And one of the foremost and prominent choices is in the US. I mean, people see US as the world power, as that dream country. Okay, so that's what the other options. There's the PLAB route for the UK. There are other countries, but I'm going to talk about the one I know about, which is the USMLE. Eventually, as you keep getting exposed to things like orientations like this from different parties, you make up your mind on what you want to do. You may not even want to practice clinical medicine, but it's important you at least have the knowledge. Okay, while I was a student, I never really wanted to practice outside the country. My mindset is all about I'm going to do residency in Nigeria, become a consultant, and all give back Okay, not really give practical, but I just wanted to practice in Nigeria for some reason while I was a student. But after doing house job, that really changed my view about a lot of things. So I decided to, you know, start looking at doing residency outside the country. Initially, I started looking at the PLAB route, but for some reasons, I eventually switched to the USMLE. So basically, USMLE, intensive medical licensing examination, there are a series of examinations that you take so I can get a license to practice as a doctor in the US. So, but the end product is how to match. I don't know if the slide has been shared to the general group yet, but if it has, the first slide I said, the first slide, I just asked the question, how can I match? Because that's the goal of everybody going through the USMLE route to match into a residency program. What does matching even mean? Okay, let me not assume that we know what matching is. What does matching mean? Now, how the US system works, you can't really practice as a medical officer just like that. Medical officer is basically unspecialized. You can't really practice as a medical officer just like that. After writing the licensing examinations and getting certified, you have to match into a residency training. What does matching mean? It means that there are different programs, there are different residency trainings in the US. There are a lot, and each of those residency trainings, they have a certain quota of people they want to employ, they want to spend days they want. So it's like it's kind of like a dating site, but it's for residency. So everything about you is put on a centralized platform. Your step two score, number of step one attempts, your year of graduation, and all lot of things about you are placed. Then the different centers can see you and select the people they want. Okay, all information is placed, right? Then the centers too for residency training are also placed in the same centralized platform. So you as a applicant, you apply to multiple places, multiple centers. People apply to as much as 50 to 100 different programs, because the more programs you apply to, maybe you may end up getting one or two that may be interested. Different programs, they will receive applications from different people. Then they will screen the applications they receive, and based on some certain criteria, they will choose who they feel is best fit for their program. So that was called match. So you match with a program. You apply to many programs. Different programs check the people that apply to them and select some people. So when a program you apply to select you, that's called matching. And then you now have the right to, practice medicine in the US, begin your residency journey. All right. So that's what matching is. That's the ultimate goal of people on the USMLE pathway, to match into a specialty. It could be family medicine, internal medicine, surgery, whatever. But the ultimate goal is to match, right? So I don't know if the slide is on yet, but um, okay, well, I have the slide personally, so I'll be using the slide to guide my thought process. Okay, so I've talked about, so what is USMLE? USMLE is a series of exams you take along that pathway of matching. USMLE is not the end of matching. It's just USMLE is just one particular part of the whole component of matching into a residency program. So USMLE, US Medical Licensing Exam, there are three parts of the exam actually. Steps, we call them steps. We have the step one, we have the step two, we have the step three. Okay. Oh, that's the first step. Those are the steps of the examination. There are other things that will now play a role after this, after I take the examinations. Well, when I get there, I'll talk about them. So before I get into telling you about step one, step two, step three, the first thing I have to talk about is what do I need to get started along this USMLE journey? What do I need to get started? So the first thing and the most important thing, is it really the most important? Yeah, I think it's the most important thing, is a will. A will. That is, you are deciding to take this pathway. I am deciding to take the USMLE journey. That is a will. That's a decision. Can I still be heard?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Someone just asked what's the meaning of USMLE.
United States Medical Licensing Examination. United States Medical Licensing United States Medical Licensing Examination. The series of examination that you take before you can get license to practice in the US. And USMLE is just one part, just one step in the process of matching into the residency program. So I was saying, how do I get started along this pathway? And I was saying that the first thing you need is the decision that I want to go along this pathway. When you decide, when you pursue it. So hopefully, the thing I was saying, will also you, I can make that decision when you can pursue. For you as students, like, don't be the information like that way and make a decision. So hopefully, information I will, let's say, the information I'll give you will help you to better make a choice. Now, so in that view, what? I'm saying that is, when there's a new, anything may not be easy at
The
first, and
line is
because that's what
breaking. Your line is breaking. Sorry.
oh, sorry about that.
Your voice is cracking. Can you like? I don't know if you're on
I'm
an
just like,
external device.
Um, hello, doctor,
yeah.
doctor. Your line is cracking. We can't really hear you clearly.
Oh, oh.
Like if you're connected to an external device, you can just like unplug it and do it with your phone or system.
Okay, let me try that.
Okay, he's going to be joining in a moment. His voice was cracking, so just let's give him about 5 minutes to join.
Hello, hello.
Hey, you know.
You can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now. You can go on.
All right. So yeah, so sorry for the interruption. Okay, about the will to get started. You have to decide because where there's a will, somehow a way can come up. So after deciding, or even without deciding, you need to get an international passport because for most foreign exams, you need an international passport, both for PLAB, ESMLE. So it doesn't hurt. Try to get an international passport. Earlier the better because sometimes the cost tends to rise. So try to get your international passport. Please, at any point, if you stop hearing me, please let me know. Okay. So try to get international passports. And another thing to get started is a way to pay in dollars. Okay. So the first thing you do is what we call ECFMG registration, and it costs about $160. Though you can start preparing for the exam before then, but I think it helps to just do that early. So that's what we call ECFMG registration, so that you get basically it's like creating a profile with USMLE, and it costs about $160. So, but you can't pay your normal Verve, MasterCard, and all. You need a dollar card, a dollar account. For me, someone in the US helped me pay. One of my cousins, he gave me his card details, and I used it to pay. Someone in the UK too can also give you people with credit cards, basically, or can, even if they're not in the US, even in the UK or other countries, as far as it's a credit card, they can also help pay for the exam. Okay. Sorry for the this ECFMG registration. That's the initial step. Payment for the exam is still in a similar fashion, but you don't need it to get started. Then after paying the $160, there's something they will do where they call notarization. Basically, a live person will have a short interview with you. They'll look at your face to make sure you're a real human being, ask you one or two questions. So you need a strong internet connection for that part of the whole thing. So, but when you eventually start, it will get clearer to you. They'll give you instructions. Okay. I sent two links to the general page. The first link I sent is the link to register to get your ECFMG ID. That's the first link I sent. It has something like IWA slash whatever, whatever, whatever. That's the link to get your ECFMG ID and to register, pay $160, do the notarization. The notarization where they will look at you and ask you a few questions. Though you also need to be your passport. That's why I said you must get an international passport. You have to hold your passport up to your webcam and they'll look at it and all. So of course you need a strong internet connection. You need a computer that has a webcam because that's what they used to look at you and look at your passport. Okay, so that's just basically how to start. It's not the main stuff. So okay, so that is that. Okay, so the next thing in my slide is step one proper. Now they have decided to pursue the USMLE route. You have decided and you have paid that gotten USMLE ID. You've paid the $160. The next thing is prepare for step one. Okay, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I can see my slide now, but just that is in if you can make it in what they call that mode now. If you can make it screen share, busy slide share or something like that. So that it will be clearer for people to see.
All right,
But either way, it's good
let
at
me
least.
try to do that.
If you can do it, fine. If you can, no problem. At least that's a step in the right direction. So step one, what is step one all about? So step one is the kind of like this step one is the first exam. But take note, you don't have to write step one before step two. You can actually write step two before step one, no problem. Depends on you. But usually the general advice is to write step one before step two because step two builds upon the concepts in step one. Yeah. So what are the components of step one preparation? What are the things you study? Anatomy, That's both your gross and embra, your histo, biochemistry, physiology, pathology. When I say pathology, I'm talking more of histopaths. But histopath, hematology, I see part of it. Basically, part and farm, everything in part and farm class is also part of step one. So pathology, microbiology, put a math chem part, but they don't differentiate it that way. Basically, pathology, pharmacology are part of step one. Psychiatry is part of step one, even though you don't do psychiatry in third MBBS, but it's a part of step one. Then ethics is a part of step one. Immunology too, which is under pathology, is a part of step one. So, thank you very much. It's better now. Okay. Although I would like you to move to the previous slide, that's slide 5. Yeah. Okay. So, how do you prepare? Now, basically, the most important resource in preparation for STEPS exam are Q banks, question banks. Here in our medical school, the most important resource for us is mainly materials and basically our materials, textbooks, then to some extent past question. But for step one, the question bank is more important. Now I'll tell you why. Number one, you already have a foundation, a knowledge base from your normal school work. Number two, the questions are structured in such a way that you are meant to learn from them. They have long questions then with long answers, with long explanations to why each answer is correct and why the other options are wrong. So you, as you go through the question bank, you're actually learning. So you don't necessarily a testing tool. It's more of a learning tool. There are other tools that are strictly assessment tool. Well, there's no tool that is strictly assessment. There are other tools that are more assessment than learning. But question banks for step one are more learning than assessment. I don't know. Can you move to slide 5? If it's possible. Okay. So, uh, yeah, question bank are the most important things for step one. We have two kinds of question banks. We have word and Ambos. For me, I feel they are both equivalent. However, people consider word as a gold standard. But anyone you can get, fine. Later, um, there are still some hacks around getting cheaper versions of step one of the question bank because the official versions are usually quite expensive. There are ways to get around, there are ways to get cheaper versions. So you can later we can have some those interested can actually chat me up. Okay, so that's question bank. Question bank are very important, and that important part of the preparation is a video series. Now I highlighted Boards and Beyond there. There's Sketchy there, there's also Patoma there. So for me, how I prepare for my step one. By the way, I prepare for my step one after my house job. I didn't make up my mind until after house jobs. I started preparing after. Okay, so I basically watched Boards and Beyond video series. Yeah, it's a video series that covers the whole syllabus on step one. While watching the Boards and Beyond, I was also doing question banks simultaneously. I didn't wait to finish Boards and Beyond before doing the question bank because, like I said, question banks are learning tools, not just assessment tools. They are mainly learning tools. So the fact that you have not watched this system in a video series doesn't mean you can't attempt the question on that system. You understand? So in the video series, Boards and Beyond, there's also Sketchy. Sketchy has Sketchy Micro, Sketchy Farm. Some of you may know about it, some may not know about it, but these things are really helpful for. When I was before I even learned about USMLE, I used Sketchy to prepare for microbiology, and it really helped me. I used Patoma for pathology, it really helped me. Then I didn't know about Boards and Beyond, but I used Sketchy and Patoma when I was studying MBBS, and it really helped me. Okay, so there's a question later on in this slide. When do you start preparing for your steps? And my answer in that slide was now. You can start preparing now, even though you're not ready to write the exam now, even though you have not decided, you haven't made up your mind. If you are in third MBBS class in this call, it's a very good opportunity for you to go through this video series. Go through Patoma for all your pathology, both morbid and hematology. Use Patoma in addition to your material and everything. Patoma videos are not so long, but they are very well explanatory. It will help your knowledge. It will help you score better and do well in third MBBS, and it will also give you a foundation to prepare for step one. So if you're in third MBBS class, you lose nothing by doing Patoma. You lose nothing by doing Sketchy. Sketchy is for micro and farm, though some people don't like it. Sketchy is a video series that has like picture series. It's like they use mnemonics, picture mnemonics to help retention, and a topic that microbiology is very volatile. Sketch really helped me for that. So you need a video series usually for step one. Some people can do without video series, just go with Kefan Bank, but I really advise students from IMGs. IMG, by the way, means International Medical Graduates. So generally, IMG, since our curriculum is not exactly the same as US curriculum, I advise you go through a video series like Buzz and Beyond. Then UWorld. When I was preparing for my step one, I didn't go through Patoma because Buzz and Beyond have what I need, but it may not be enough. Patoma is a bit more explanatory than Buzz and Beyond, so you may want to look at Patoma. But the reason is that Patoma is strictly pathology, meanwhile Buzz and Beyond covers everything. You understand? So when you're ready, when you start the nitty-gritty of the operation, um, some of these things will get clearer. By the way, I run personal mentorship for a fee. So if you're ever interested, you can always chat me up. Okay. So aside that, so that is I've talked about QBank video series. I know many these things like this thing will not make sense now, but let me just quickly mention it for those because I don't know how many people I don't know the kind of people on this call. Maybe some may already preparing for the steps, while some are yet to make up their mind. Let me just give you an overview of the preparation. So apart from your video series and question bank, you can also go through a PDF. PDF is just like something you read like a material or your textbook instead of in addition to the video. So we have Mailman Medical. He has some PDFs on his site. We also have first aid. Before now, first aid used to be considered the gold standard PDF to read, but from my experience, I feel Mailman Medical is better. Mailman Medical is on this slide, so you can check it up. Whenever you eventually ready to repair, you can make reference to this slide. I prefer Mailman Medical to first aid. That's why I put it first under the PDFs. So that's so the triad of preparation for step one basically is a QBank, a video series, and a PDF. Okay, you may skip one of these triads. You may decide not to use the video, you may decide not to use the PDF, but QBank is absolutely essential. And for best result, I advise you to use the three of them. Okay, so after studying, finishing your UWorld, what next? You have to assess yourself whether you're likely to pass the exam. And you have this thing we call MBMEs. Like I said, a lot of things will be flying over you guys' heads because you are not yet in the process. When you're eventually ready, like I said, I run some personal mentorship, so you may just hit me up. Okay, so MBMEs are assessment tools. We have there are different forms. Each of the forms. When I say form, I mean like let's just say it's a past question. Let me think of it that way. Maybe think of it as a year of a past question. Let's say pathology of O21 class. The past question, the MCQ in the main. Just think of it that way. So each of those forms is a year. So there are forms 20 to 31 for step one. Each of those forms have 200 questions. They help you assess how ready you are to prepare to pass the exam. Once you can score consistently above 66 to 70%, you are ready to write step one. You also have UWorld self-assessment, but for me, you don't really necessarily need that. There are also some other free assessments you may come across later. Ambos assessments, Kaplan, this is another one, but yeah, then there's free 120. Free 120. By the way, I didn't mention MBME is called the meaning of MBME is National Board of Medical Examiners. It's the same is the board that sets questions for USMLE that wrote the MBME questions as a practice test for people. So the questions are test the same concept tested on USMLE exam. Same thing with the free 120. Free 120 are free 120 questions you can access on the on a site called Prometric. That is a site that used to write the USMLE exam. They are free. Why they added free to the name is because MBM is actually are paid. MBM is you pay for them, but there are groups on Telegram where you can access this MBM is free. They are like I said, they are always based around all these things. That's why. So they are also those, like I said earlier, those question banks are expensive. There are cheaper ways to access them. So those are the main resources you need for step one. There are some other miscellaneous resources like Divine Intervention podcast. I was not really a fan in step one time. Mema YouTube videos. He's the same person that made the Mema PDS, but he just has YouTube videos where he explains some concepts or some questions. He also have Randinel Bell statistics. Statistics is a part of step one. So divine boards and beyond may not be good enough for some people, especially if you have a poor foundation in statistics and maths. So you may also look up Randinel Bell statistics. So that's all for step one preparation. How do you book the step one exam? First, you have to know that it costs $1,195. You do the maths and convert it to Naira. So it costs $1,195. That's what it costs. Now, one thing you have to know while booking a step one exam is that you have to have your logbook handy, especially for those that have graduated. Even if you have not graduated, you can still upload the postings you have done. Why I say you need to have your logbook is that there's a segment in the registration for the postings you have done. The postings, the clinical postings you have done, there's a segment, and you need to tell them the clinical postings you have done. So you need your logbook at hand to look at it, look at the time you did the posting, the consultant has supervised you, you need those details, okay? So if you have graduated, why if for those that of course it's from site, so you guys have not graduated, when you graduate and you'll be asked to submit your logbook finally when you write your final exam, please snap your logbook, convert it to PDF and keep. Otherwise, to stress you when you're about to book for step one, you start looking for somebody to go to the faculty to retrieve your logbook, to snap and all those kind of things. So avoid that stress, please. When you graduate, when you write your final exam and the faculty asks you to submit your logbook to them, please snap those logbooks and convert to PDF. Keep it in a safe place. Another thing you need is your certificates and your transcripts. Now, you must not be a graduate to write step one. In fact, in the US, there is medical students that write step one. So you must not have your certificate, you must not have your transcript. If you don't have those things, so basically you can write step one as a medical student. So if you are writing step one as a medical student, or maybe just maybe post graduation, you will not have your certificate, you will not have your transcript, you will not be ready. So they what we call letter in lieu. It's a letter that the school will write to certify that you graduated from or you're a student of that school, just that your certificate is not ready. So now this certificate and transcript or letter in lieu will be uploaded onto a separate link. That is the second link I sent to that group. Okay. Now it's very important to know that because when you're applying for step one and you are using the normal platform to apply for step one, or you will see different options, upload your log, the clinical posting, different things they'll ask you, but they'll not ask you for your certificate, they'll not ask you for your transcript. I don't know why, but they expect you to know that you're going to upload it on a separate link, and that's the link I sent. So you can save that link. You need to upload your certificate or transcript on that link. Otherwise, they will not process your application. Even if you pay them in $1,195, they'll refund you your money because you didn't upload the certificate and transcripts. Or if you don't have those things, your letter in lieu, you must upload those things on a separate link. Now, when you apply for step one, after you finish applying, your school have to verify that truly, truly you're a student of the school. And for that process, you need to pay the school 50,000 naira. I don't know if they increase it in the future, but as last I knew, it was 50,000 naira. The faculty will charge you so that they will correspond with the USMLE and confirm that you're a student, that they know you. Okay. After that, they'll now give you they will not send you an email telling you that you can schedule a date. And of course, we don't have a center for writing. Sorry, sorry, just give me a moment. Can I still be heard?
We can hear you.
Okay, all right. So when you schedule a date, we don't have a center for writing the USMLE Step 1 in Nigeria anymore. Previously, there used to be a center, but for a while, we don't have a center in Nigeria. So you have to go to Ghana. So when you're scheduling the dates, the location will have to be Accra, Ghana. That is the closest location to Nigeria. Or if you're in the US already, you can as well schedule it wherever you are, closest to where. If you're in the UK, you can schedule it in the UK. But if you're in Nigeria, when you're booking Step 1, the most likely the closest place is Ghana. Okay. Now, once you book your date in Ghana, you now start thinking of how to transport yourself to Ghana a day or 2 days before the exam, and all those kind of things. How to book a lodge. Of course, when that time is getting close, you have information on people that have written before you. They can guide you, give you the specifics about that. So you have to work on transport, lodging, and fitting. But of course, that's for that. So let's go to step two. So after you've passed step one, um, you start preparing for step two. What are the components of step two? We have pediatrics, O&G, internal medicine, surgery, ethics, psychiatry. So ethics, psychiatry, and step one and step two. In fact, step two is a upgrade from step one. So some of the concepts you learned in step one will be helpful in step two. just upgraded to higher levels, that's pediatric one, general medicine, surgery, psychiatry, statistics, ethics, and all. So yeah, so how do you prepare for step two? The cornerstone of step two preparation, please you can move the slide to the next slide 8. The cornerstone of step two preparation is question banks. In step one, I told you that there's a triad of preparation for step one, which is question bank, video series, and PDS. And I advise you to go to use the triad. For step two, I won't really advise you to use the triad. By the way, for step one, just going through one part of the question bank is enough. Going through MBM is enough. Okay. But for step two, I don't really advise you to use the triad. For me, the question bank is enough for step two. You have built a strong enough foundation from step one, so you don't really need to go through a video series. You don't need to go through a PDF. Even though those PDF still exist for step two, PDF a video series exists for step two. If you're comfortable doing that, you can do it. But for me, and from people that did well in step two, most of them, what helped them is question bank, doing a lot of questions. Sorry, give me another moment. Yeah. So moving on. So sorry for the interruption. I hope you can still hear me. So for step two, I was saying what you just need is a question bank. And for like I was saying, for step one, you can just do one part of question bank, your video series and PDF, and ready for the exam. But for step two, you can't do one part of a question bank. You have to do at least two passes. Sometimes you may even reach up to three passes. So you can do two passes of U World. What I mean by two passes? U World, okay, some of them may not make sense, but U World questions, question bank has for step two, it has about 4,000 questions. While for step one, it has about 3,700 questions. Okay. When I say a pass, I mean doing all of those 4,000 questions. So for step two, you need at least two passes. So either you do two passes of U World or you do one pass of U World, one pass of Amboss. For me, I did one pass of U World, one pass of Amboss, and I did pretty well. Well, even though they should not read the share, so but I did pretty well. I scored 266 in my step two. But people that scored high, 260s, 270s, most of them did at least two passes of a question bank. Either two passes of U World, one pass of U World, one pass of Amboss, two passes of Amboss. Some even did three passes of U World, some even did up to four passes. So it takes time, but you just have to do that. Question bank are the most important for step two. Video series and PDFs, I downplay them. In fact, I didn't use a video series, I didn't use a PDF for my step two, or just my question bank. Then a few miscellaneous resources. Maybe if there's a topic that was proving difficult, I can check a video, I can check YouTube's resource and all. But for my main cornerstone of my step two preparation was a question bank. So then after the question bank, there's a question bank. There's also another question series called CMS forms, clinical mastery series forms. Each form has 50 questions. It's made by the same people that made the USMLE exam that does the MBMS too. Later, when you're praying for step two, you have more details about this. I'm just mentioning it in passing. Even if you don't understand it, you just don't worry about it. So they're going to call you just know that there was something called CMS forms. It's also important to do them. And you have your assessments too, MBMS too, that also give you a clue on how well you are doing, what kind of score you're likely to get if you take the exam. And all. So there are also miscellaneous resources. There's what we call divine intervention podcast. Divine intervention podcast are more useful, in my opinion, for step two than both. But can use divine intervention podcast later. You get to know more about it when you actually make the decision to commit to USMLE pathway. I want to talk about that. There's still mailman and nearby statistics, the dirty medicine and AJ money. There are some video series on YouTube that help with step two. But like I said, those are just miscellaneous resources. So what is a good step two score to match from 240 and above? The pass mark for step two is around like 215 or 214. But scoring scores like 220, 230 really will not do you much good. Aim for 240 and above. So we can move to slide 11. Okay, so after you write your step two, what's the next thing you need to do? You can write OET. OET is occupational English test. Now, there's something you call ECFMG. I think the license, the initial one I paid $160 for was ECFMG certification kind of. This one is to get a license to practice, to be board certified, to be certified to practice in the US. The first one was just to get an ID. This one is now to to get a license to practice in the US. So to get that license, you need your step 1, step 2, and OET. Okay, and you apply to get the license. So you don't need to write step 3 to match actually. Step 1, step 2, and OET is enough, are enough. Step 3 increases the chances of matching for IMGs. Okay, yeah, increase the chances, but you have to write step 3, you have to write it in the US. So that is a limiting factor for people that cannot afford to go to the US. Okay, so step 3, you have to write it in the US. If you can go to the US, fine, write step 3. So what next? Research. Note that research plays a huge role in matching. So as of now, start putting your eye in research. Your project work, do it well with a plan to publish it as a paper. Also, if you see an opportunity to pair with your senior colleagues to get published, fine. But research is important. Your experiences are also important. Leadership experiences, volunteering experiences, and being part of NGOs, going for outreaches, those things add to your CV, okay? Overcoming challenging situations. Eventually, you'll be interviewed and they'll want to know how we have overcome challenging situations in your life. US clinical experience, that's a very important part of the whole process. So the thing is that you are getting matched into a residency program. They will be more comfortable taking you into your residency program if they feel you have some idea how their clinical system works, because their clinical system is much different from ours. So they all we call US clinical experience is where you travel to the US and maybe stay in the hospital, observe what they do for up to 3 to 6 months. You can either just observe what we call observership, or it can be hands-on where you play minor roles in patient management. But basically, US clinical experience helps your chances of matching. However, it's not 100% compulsory. I know people that have matched without US clinical experience. However, you can afford it, go for it. And letters of recommendation. So you need letters of recommendation from US physicians, and is what your US clinical experience will help you to get. But if you can't get letters of recommendation from US physicians, you can just manage the ones from maybe your faculty, your dean, some of your lecturers. Maybe you did post in their units, people you have worked with. So can also count professors and all. But the best letters of recommendation are from US physicians. So step 3, like I said, is not compulsory to write it, but it can increase your chance. What are the components of step 3? Step 3 is actually a 2-day exam. A 2-day exam. I've not written step 3, so I won't say much about it, but the reason that it's not so compulsory. But when you're ready, you can get more information about that. When do you start preparing? Now. You can start now. You can start now. Okay. Those boards are beyond video series. Even though you don't need video series for step 2, if you have passed step clinic pattern and farming, you're in clinical class, you might as well get boards and beyond videos and watch the medicine part, watch the surgery part, watch the pediatrics, watch the O&G part. It will be the foundation for when you eventually start preparing for your step 2. You can write step 1 as a student, like I said, after pattern farm. During that, after pattern farm, you have a long period before you write your next MBBS, which is 4th MBBS. During that period, you can actually prepare for step 1 and write it. You can prepare for step 1 and write it. Then just have to. I won't mention it, but there's someone I guided. Actually, okay, it's actually okay. I'm not mention the class, so you're not connected to the person. But there's someone I guided, a junior colleague anyway. he, he wrote step 1 just after finishing with first starting house job. He prayed for step 1 within about 4 months. Though the guy already had a good foundation in his medical school days, but you just use about 4 months, 5 months to prepare for step 1, wrote step 1, passed, then started house job. So you can do it that way. Or you can prepare for step 1 during house job and write it shortly after house job. It's hard to write step 1 in between house job because house job is very stressful, but it's doable if you determine. You can also write step 1 after house job. For me, like I said, I decided late, so I prepared for step 1 after house job during NYSC. I wrote my step 1 in June of last year. I wrote step 2 in December of the same last year. So it was within my NYSC I was able to write step 1 and step 2. Okay, so now let's so you can start preparing for your steps now. If you can't, just after school, after house job and all. So what are the factors affecting the match? You can move to slide 14. What are the factors influencing your chances of matching to your desired specialty? Number 1, year of graduation. They like people that have younger years of graduation. Like people that are just fresh from med school. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Some people have a cutoff for year of graduation. Once you pass 5 years, they may not look at your application unless there are other things that are very enticing in your application. So the earlier, the better. Number of attempts on step one. Having two attempts on step one is reduces your chances because they feel for you to fail step one, that means you may not be a strong candidate. However, it doesn't mean you can't match if you fail step one. So, but number of attempts, if you have more than one attempt on step one, it reduces your chances. By the way, I didn't mention step one is a pass or fail exam. There's no score for step one. It's just a pass or fail exam. But if you have more than one attempts, they will look at you negatively unless you can convince them otherwise that you are a good enough candidate for them to give you a try in their training program. So as much as possible, prepare for your step one well and pass it in one attempt. Step two CK score matters. It matters. Even though it's not the latest thing that matters, but it actually matters. So aim for a score above 240. If possible, aim for a score above 250. The average step two score is around 248. So if possible, aim for above average, aim for 250 and above. But even if you get 40 and above, that is fine. But once you start getting below 240, you can still match, but your chances they are actually just reduce a bit, you understand? Like I said, research, the more papers publish you have, the better. Aim for to have at least 4 published papers by the time you finish. Yes, clinical experience, I've talked about that. If you can afford it, fine. If not, you can't kill yourself. But if you can afford it, work towards it. Go to US, get US clinical experience. Other experience, I've talked about it. Volunteer, join organizations, get leadership experience, and all that. Letter recommendation and networking. That one is based. You can network on LinkedIn, on Twitter. People that are in the same pathway as you, people that have gone ahead of you, people that are already matched. You can talk to them. They can link you to some program directors. Program directors are people that control the residency matching program in the center. So you need to network, link up with people ahead of you that have matched so that they can help you. Your personal statement is also a very strong factor affecting your match. Write a very strong personal statement. Personal statement talks about you, your person, your qualities, why you stand out above other candidates. Even if you have a poor step score, your statement can convince a program director that you're a good enough candidate to be given a try. So later, when you're eventually ready, you will learn more about the personal statement. Then, if you're trained in a US center, your chances go up a lot. Like if you are trained in the US, but of course, I'm talking to home side, so that's off. But if you're a US citizen, even though you trained outside, you have a slightly higher chance of than someone that's a US citizen. Okay, so application to match, and then finally, once you have written your step one, step two, OET, you have gotten your what they call it now, your license to practice in the US, possibly gotten some research, possibly got some clinical experience. You applied to match. Applications to match are usually around August, September. Then after some time, you'll be interviewed around November, December, January. Then in March, they'll publish the match list. So you know if you matched in a specialty or not. So eventually you get to find out that there are some programs or some centers that take more of IMGs compared to other centers. Eventually, when you start the pathway, you learn more about all these things, about the interview, because you'll be interviewed. When a center is considering your application, they will interview you. Later, when you have gone find the pathway, you learn more about those things. I won't talk about that now. So, what's the financial implication? Let's move to the next slide 16. Thank you. That this is one of the most critical things dissuading people from going after the US pathway. A financial implication. I tell you, it's very expensive, both on time, money, your mental health. It's an expensive pathway, but it pays off in the end. It pays off in the end. This ECFMG application, like I've said, that is to get the initial ECFMG ID and all. That's just $160. Yeah. Question mark for step one. You world official is around 400 and something dollars. I think $450 or so. Same thing for step two. Okay. So that's like $900. But like I said, there's some ways to work around it so I don't pay as much as that. Then you have your step one fee, $1,195. There's no way around that one. You must pay your $1,195. Step two, you must pay your $1,220. That's step two fee. $1,220. So of course you travel to Ghana for both step one and step two. Either you can use flights or you can use roads. If you want to use roads, you can go from Lagos to Ghana actually. God is good, GUO, Chisco. Who are the three I know that go from Lagos to go to Ghana on Riviera Road? It's cheaper than air. Yeah, it's much cheaper than air. So that's an option. Then of course when you travel now, you book a place, you stay in Ghana, you eat in Ghana and all that. Then research. Sometimes you may engage in some paid programs that will teach you how to research, then you get some publications, or you may even to publish itself may cost some money. US clinical experience is quite expensive because you have to travel to the US and pay those programs you want to observe. So personally, I don't know much about the exact cost. I won't say anything about that, but I know it's quite expensive. Then application is the most expensive of it all because for each, like I said, sometimes you may have to apply to 50 to 100 centers, and for each application may cost about $33 or so. So multiply $30 times 50, multiply $33 times 100. Have an idea of how much the match application will cost. Then even that application for the license will also cost some money. So it's quite expensive. In total, it may take up to $10,000, up to $10,000 in total. So, but this thing, you have to understand that once you start, one step at a time, one step at a time. Now, it's actually hard for you to fund a pathway yourself. It's good if you have family funding. Like for me, it was my uncles that funded my step one and step two. So because it's hard to, make that kind of money on your own. But if you can, if you have a lucrative business you are doing, fine. If your family can support you, much better. So, but one thing you have to know is that all these payments don't come at one at a time. You initially, if it's first $160, then eventually step one and Q bank, eventually step two. So gradually you can be working on gathering the money, getting the money you're paying for the next step. So in how much as $10,000, it's spread over a period of 1 to 2 years. So you can know how to arrange for that money within that period of time. Um let me see. All right, so I've come to the ends. So we can take questions now. I can take questions. So I know I'm sure a lot of people have some questions. Yeah. So now is the time for your question. I don't know how we'll do it. Calling still. I don't know how to structure it, but this should be the
Some
question and
questions
answer
Please, if
session.
you have your questions, drop them on the chat
some are
box, like on YouTube. Like you can actually ask your questions and it's going to reflect.
some questions have been asked already.
All right. So maybe someone can be raising out the questions to me one by one, so I can be answering them.
All right. Chukwucheku asked, "How can I get other pathoma videos aside histopathologic series?"
Well, Patoma videos. They have a section for red and white blood cell disorders. That's like hematology. Understand? But it's still one Patoma video. There are no different sections. Patoma is Patoma. It has different segments. It has those initial neoplasia, those initial growth adaptations, cellular adaptations, and now the different systems. You now have your red blood. Of course, hematology system is also a system, so it's covered that. So if you have access to Patoma, you have access to everything. Well, there's a Telegram group, Medics Frontiers e-Library. Medics Frontiers e-Library. I'm sure we're on site now. We all know Medics Frontiers. Their president, when I was in, like, the president that was my set, Dr. Ohams, he created a library of videos and other materials. Sha. So most of Sketchy is there, Patoma is there, most of many video series are there too, and some other PDF resources are also there. So you can check that out. You can also chat me up to. I think Buzz and Beyond is there too, even though there is not as organized as some other places. So, but some of all these things will benefit from one-on-one mentorship and all. So yeah, Patoma has it's just in systems. Once you have Patoma, all Patoma videos, there's no histopathology segment separate from MCB or anything like that. You just have Patoma. And in Patoma, there's hematology part of it. Basically, Patoma is just hematology and histo part. I don't think it really has much of chem part and MCB. Yeah, it doesn't really have MCB and chem part, but it's basically histo part and hematology. So I hope that answered that question from Chukwujeku. So the next
Anybody
question,
in
please.
search of Fatima video, you can always text me. I will send it to you. Like you will come and collect it.
All
Okay,
right. So if you can
the
also get
next
it physically
question.
from Collins, okay.
Davis Code asked, "What is a good step two score for neurosurgery?"
Ay, 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 ay. Hmm, 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 hmm. Yeah, I'm laughing like this because neurosurgery is really hard to get. It's not impossible, it's really hard. You need to network, you need to publish a lot of research in neurosurgery. It's difficult to get, but you can get it. It's not impossible. Okay. So what's a good score for neurosurgery? For me, I'll say 260 and above. Yeah, I'll say 260 and above. Or even if I want to be modest, 255 and above. Neurosurgery is one of the competitive specialties, so you need a good score for that. So aim for 260 and above. If you can get something like above 255, yeah, I think you're also fine. But I don't think you should be aiming for 250 because 250 is like the average score. Like I said, the average score is like 248. So I mean, aim for above average. So something anything above 255 should be fine. However, like I said, it's not all everything is not about scores. Oh. If our scores is just let me say 1/5 of what they look at, 1/5 or let me say 1/4. The other things, the research, your letters of recommendation, US clinical experience, your personal statement, your experiences. You look at all these things. So score is just one part that okay, since you can control that one, do your best and get the best possible score. Okay. So to get a good score, like I said, just a lot of questions. Just have to do a lot of questions. There's no way about that. You have to do as, as much as 10,000 questions over a period of at least. Well, let me not give a time limit because someone that is busy compared preparing for step two is different from someone that is not doing anything. So but that's it. I think I've answered the question in one word. Maybe something about 255 in my opinion. So next question.
Okay, Emmanuel is asking, good evening, Dr. Judah. Thank you for sharing your insight with us. Please, I have a question to ask. To you, if giving advice to your younger self, is it better to write step one in college?
Well, giving advice to my younger self is better if you have the money. Yeah, like I said, after part and farm. After part and farm, if someone is interested during part and farm days, you'll be using all these video resources. You must not use the question bank. You can even use the question bank. There are some question banks that last can subscribe for the one of a year. Like I'm using it together with preparing to help you in your part and farm. To also help you in your step one preparation. After the part and farm, you now focus, do a kind of like a dedicated period and write your exam. So the reason I would say our advise that is because it will reduce the time spent and to spread the money. Like, but if you can write step one after part and farm, you know that okay, until after I graduate, before I'll write step two. So that monetary cost can be spread apart. You understand? Also, the time, like I said, they prefer those with little year of graduation, 1, 2, 3 years. So doing step one as a medical student will help you give you a head start. Give you a head start. So yeah, I will advise someone that has the money to write step one after part and farm. So that's the direct answer to the question. So to my younger self,
Okay,
if I had
next
the money and
question.
if I had decided by then, I would have done that. Okay, so next question.
After writing step one, is there a given time to prepare for step two?
Okay. Mm, well, you should finish step one and step two and OET should all be written within a period of 7 years. So years is a period, but 7 years is quite a long time. So yeah, but yeah, so like if someone writes after part and farm, you can now give 2 years interval, then write it after graduation. That's 2 years gap. It's still fine. So we will write everything within 7 years, but the earlier step two to step one, the better because step one is a foundation stone for step two. So the more your master of step one, the better your step two score. Okay, so and with time you forget things. If you give so much gap between step one and step two, it may be a bit harder preparing for step two. So yeah, there is a time limit, but the earlier, the closer, the better. Okay,
Okay,
next
next
question.
question. Good evening. How how easy is it for one to match into a surgery program?
Yeah, generally, study programs are more difficult than internal medicine, family medicine, psychiatry, pediatrics. Yes, internal medicine, psychiatry, pediatrics, pathology, they are the ones that are easier. But surgery is considered to be a bit harder, but it's still doable. You just have to put in more work, more research, more networking, possibly get a strong letter of recommendation from a surgeon in the US. You have to put in more work. It's doable, but it's more stressful. Yeah, so that's the short answer to the question. So the longer I started the question, you have to
Okay,
actually
next
start the pattern.
question.
Yeah.
Is it better doing the ECFMG certification while in college or after college, even if the person will be leaving Nigeria?
Doesn't really matter. But if you are, I mean, if you have the one to do like, you might as well do it now. So you might as well do it. In fact, there was a time when they were saying something about them changing the format and all that. People now have to rush to do it. So, and I think they may increase the price later. So everything. So if you can do it now, I mean, why not? If you wait till after college, whenever that is, whatever condition that prevails by that time, you still do it with the condition. But if you can do it now, I think it's better to even do it now. Yeah. So in the short answer, I think it's better to do it now rather than waiting till after I leave the college.
Okay,
I know
is
someone in those
neurosurgery
26 class
IMG?
that already done has.
Okay,
Yeah.
is neurosurgery IMG friendly?
No, not at all. But it's possible, but it's not. That is the short answer to your question is not MB friendly. These competitive specialties, you there are a lot of factors that affect your chances. Being a US citizen increases training in the US increases your chances. So imagine an IMG going for a competitive specialty and a US trained physician going for the same competitive specialty. They will choose the US trained physician first. But it doesn't mean that you can't get it. For instance, if you have a good score, have a lot of publications in neurosurgery, you are able to somehow find a way to do US clinical experience, and you get a good letter of recommendation from a neurosurgeon in the US. I mean, you can definitely be get it. Just that, like I said, you have to pass all these hurdles.
Okay, the next
Meanwhile,
question is it
someone going for something like internal medicine now, pediatrics, just get minimal research. Okay, all right, okay,
is a PG degree needed for those who want to
I'm
practice
listening.
clinical medicine in America?
PG degree. I don't really get. I don't really get the question.
I
Do you
think
mean
it.
like PhD or something or masters? No. If the person means masters and it's not necessary, it's not compulsory. In US, they are medical students that write step one and step two, so they match immediately after they graduate. So you don't need a PD, a postgraduate. This thing. Though it may add to your experiences, it may add something, especially if the masters is in something clinical related. It may add to your pedigree because all these things they consider the candidate, they consider so many factors. So it may add to you, but it's not as if it's compulsory. Especially when you're able to get a master's in the US. I mean, you're almost guaranteed to match if you get to a master's program in the US. Yeah, because you'll be there in the US, you have US clinical experience, you have the letter of recommendation. In fact, you're basically guaranteed almost if you have a good score if you get a master's in the US. So yeah, so that's that for that. It's not compulsory, but it helps.
Okay, I heard Nigerian universities are no longer accredited to take USMLE. What
That's
can you say
wrong.
about it?
It's not true. It's not true, Sha. That is a summary. That is a short answer. There was a time they were getting rumor about that they will lose accreditation, blah, blah, blah. People had to rush and get that ECFMG ID and all that. But eventually, what happened, the truth was that the only thing that they will flag you, they may flag your application, like there will be a note on your application that your school is not, there's something about verification. The US now wants medical schools to pay some money to verify their country. They want different countries to pay some money to the US to verify their country. So if your country doesn't pay that money, it will just be noted somewhere in your application that your country hasn't verified that it's not verified. But it doesn't mean you can't match. It doesn't mean Nigerians match every year. I know many people that match this year, so it's not true. Uh-huh.
Okay, next question. Can I can I watch boards and beyond videos during clinicals? You didn't
Um. Okay. Well. Hmm. Well, you can. You can check the Buzz and Beyond videos. You can check the videos he has, the one that are clinically relevant, like for instance biochemistry. In each Buzz and Beyond is very into systems. For instance, in cardiovascular now, how he does his things is that you have a video on anatomy of the cardiovascular system, a video on the physiology, then pathology. You understand? So if you have the Buzz and Beyond videos, you can, for instance, now you are reading muscular or the anatomy is even more of musculoskeletal anyway. But Buzz and Beyond has a musculoskeletal part, so you can watch the anatomy there. When you go to each thorax, for instance, and I can go to cardiovascular system anatomy and watch the Buzz and Beyond videos there. But for me, there are better videos for second MB, anatomy, physiology, biochemistry than Buzz and Beyond. Buzz and Beyond is too summarized for second MBBS. If you want to watch videos for second MBBS, I feel there are better options. You have Ninja Net, we have Najib. Though some people don't like Najib because Najib is too long. But if you can afford the time, Najib will give you almost everything you need. And Najib is also USMLE, also in keeping USMLE stuff. But it's just that it's long. You have Ninja Net, there are other resources. I won't start telling you to go to World Boys and Beyond for preclinical because it's too summarized. It's too summarized. Yeah. But you can look at it up after you have gone through your primary resource, maybe your primary video series or your primary textbook, whatever. You can just look at the summary they will now give in Boards and Beyond. But I won't advise it as a primary resource because, for instance, some people may want to watch a video before they read in second BBS. I won't advise you to go what Boards and Beyond first before you read. Watch other video series that are more explanatory. Then Boards and Beyond, you now cap it up as a summary. So that's that. Any other question?
Yes, yes, yes. I was locked out for a while. Sorry.
Okay.
Uh, do we don't do biostatistics in third MBBS here? How do we
Oh,
circumvent that?
okay. So first thing, I said, you word question banks are learning tools, not necessarily question banks, not really assessment tools. So when you can create a blocks on biostatistics and gradually learn as you try to solve questions. Alternatively, or at the same time, you can watch the biostatistics segment of Boards and Beyond. In addition, for more biostatistic information, there's a YouTube channel called Randinel. Randinel, Randyneil is somewhere in this slide. Randinel Biostatistics is own biostatistics videos that are a bit more explanatory than Boards and Beyond. So you can teach yourself biostatistics even though you don't do statistics until comment. Even when you do comment, the statistics you do in comment sef, it's relevant, but it's just basics. The one you do in comment is just basic. There's more advanced things in this USMLE statistics. So you still need to watch Buzz and Beyond video on statistics. You still need to, if Buzz and Beyond is not enough for you, like for me now, I was a statistician, I do data analysis. So Buzz and Beyond is enough for me. But for people that are poor in statistics, you may have to use Randinel biostatistics to augment. But you can teach yourself. It's doable. It's very doable. Of course, also having people to guide you too will also be an added advantage.
Okay. Glory has a question. She said, "Thanks so much, doctor. Please, what score does someone need to match into O&G residency program?"
ONG, yeah, I don't really know much about ONG, but the thing is that either way, you just aim for the best score possible. And you just aim for the best score, regardless. Even if you want to match into the easiest specialty, aim for the best score so that you don't have any issues. So for ONG, I think ONG is a bit more competitive than the usual IMG. There are some specialties that IMG likes to enter. ONG is not really one of them. So since it's not really one that I feel to be more competitive. So at least aim for a 250 and above. Others you can aim for 240 and above. For ONG, I feel aiming for a 250 and above is fair game. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Dr. Judah.
Yeah.
Thanks
Good
for
evening.
sharing your experience with us. Please, does one need to make up his mind in a specialty before taking step one?
Not at all. You don't have to. But I know some of my classmates that are still confused after step one and even step two. what they eventually decided. Some people even go as far as applying to two different specialties because you're applying 50 to 100 programs. So maybe in half of them they apply to one specialty, in half of that programs apply to that specialty. But it's best to actually make up your mind before you eventually apply. So you can write step one, write step two before you make up your mind on the specialty you want. Okay.
Okay, this is the last question. Glory is
Okay.
asking again. Is someone who graduated from Russia Medical University take the USMLE? Can someone who graduated from Russia's Medical University take the USMLE since Russia is sanctioned by US in various states due to the Ukraine war?
Uh, Now I feel so. Now actually there's a list. There's what we call WDOM. WDOM, World Directory of Medical Schools. If your medical school is in that world directory, you can take USMLE. UNN is in that directory. So if the person just have to check their particular school, check if their school is in the world directory of medical schools. If their school is there, then yes, they can take USMLE. Obviously, the person too should also ask his fellow colleagues. So you person should know if his fellow colleagues have been taking USMLE. Then personally, I know some people from Ukraine. I think I know some from Russia. I think she's also planning to take USMLE. So I think yes, Russian medical schools can write USMLE, but I don't have 100% complete first-hand knowledge on that. They will have to ask their fellow classmates in Russia and check the World Directory of Medical Schools to see if their school is listed there. Okay, so that's that. That was the last question, right?
Okay, I
Yes,
have a
yes, that's the
question.
last question.
So
Okay,
I have
someone
a
has a
question.
question. All right.
So there's this normal book that people normally use. They call it Step One in preparing for USMLE. Is it actually
Uh,
recommended? Is it actually a book you should use if you want to start?
that is first aid to step one. Is first aid. First aid to step one. That is a common
So is
book.
it something that is recommended for Step One preparers?
Okay, so you see, like I said, there's a triad of resources you need. You need a question bank, you need a video series, and you need the PDF. Now, for someone that is not planning on writing step one in the next 6 months or the next 1 year, but you just want to start preparing and reading a bit, you person will not read the question bank, but you can get those video series for free on Telegram and or wherever and start watching them. I want to advise you to read first aid for step one straight up. That book is a highly is very summarized, highly summarized. You may confuse you and may frustrate you. So yes, you can use first aid. Yes, it's one of the recommended books. I used first aid, even though I didn't know about mailman before. Right now, I prefer mailman to first aid, but you can still use first aid. However, don't open first aids and that's your first exposure to everything about the USMLE step one. No, go through boards and beyond first. For instance, what boards and beyond biochemistry videos before you open biochemistry in first aid. So it will make more sense. If not, it may frustrate you. That first aid is very highly summarized and it's like a bullet points. It's very confusing to read first aid from the start. So please, if you want to use first aid, it's fine. It's a good book. However, watch a video series first. Watch that system you want to read in first aid first in the video series before opening first aid. So yeah. So I guess that's all the questions, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
Colin,
thank you
it's
so
over
much.
to
Thank you
you.
so much.
Okay. Okay. So if anyone needs to reach me personally, all is you can just give them my number. If I don't reply, I'll try and reply as I can, sha. So that's all. So I think we can call it a night, right?
Okay, before we call it a night, I would want to appreciate you, Dr. Judah. I mean, for taking out your time to give us this wonderful session, this wonderful orientation. Like it's not really easy at all, and we want to say a very big thank you. I mean, we really appreciate. We have a lot of students. I believe at least from the 027 class, 026 class, 025 class, 024 class, even our juniors, 028 and 029 who have learned so much from this from your bounty of knowledge. And we want to say a very big thank you to you. God
You're
bless you, sir.
welcome. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
and any materials or anything that we will need to effectively prepare for this USMLE, we always reach out to you to get as much resources as possible.
All right,
Thank you
no
so
problem.
much, Ransom. And also thank you for our listeners. Uh,
We can't hear you, Collins.
and thank you so much too for the new platform and all. We can all leave the group now if we can all leave the group.